Dennis Allen's interview on the NFL Network's The NFL Report. Very excited for this. It's been all over my timeline. Dennis Allen's going to get into the offseason, going to get into Klint Kubiak and the OC search. So let's get straight into the interview. I am pumped.
Back to Atlanta. And first off, thanks for joining us. But we wanted to have you on because this has been such an eventful offseason in terms of changing of your coaching staff. On the offensive side, you hired Klint Kubiak as your offensive coordinator. Just kind of what went into that, and what are you expecting now for your offense? Is it going to be a radical change, or just something you think fits philosophically with what you want to do with this team?
Now, I'll say this before we get to the answers. Each one of these answers from Dennis is hugely important because, Dennis is not exactly the best when it comes to this, when it comes to the PR and the media side of things. So his answers are either going to be there's going to be no information at all, and he's going to try and hide everything, or he's just going to kind of lay it all out there. So, some of them he will be candid, and he will be, PC, and he won't give us the full story, and we'll be able to detect that. But I have a sneaky feeling if he's going to answer a question, we can assume, like if he gives us an honest answer, like with this, if he says it's going to be a radical shift, we can go ahead and assume that Dennis is telling the truth, and that's how he really feels.
Yeah, well, look, obviously we went through an extensive search in terms of interviewing a lot of people for this position. I think we interviewed 11 or 12 offensive coordinator candidates, a lot of really qualified guys. I felt like, we really needed to do a deep dive into a lot of different schemes and a lot of different personalities that I wanted to really look at, what was going to be the best fit for the New Orleans Saints, for our players that we have here, and the things that we need to try to get accomplished. And
I do like that answer so far. I do like the idea of, and first of all, how great is it that Dennis just stays in his coaching attire all the time? Like Dennis, this is what he would wear to a game, and we're in the off season. We're months into the off season, and Dennis is rocking and rolling with the same outfit, same visor. Unbelievable. But I love the answer because I do agree. There was two caveats to this coaching search. One caveat was the personality, who is actually being hired, what is the person like, and then the scheme. Depending on the OC, and this is obvious, but depending on the OC determines what scheme Dennis Allen wants the Saints to run, and whoever Mickey Loomis or whoever's making these decisions. I would assume Mickey and Dennis have most of the weight of that decision. So to look at all these different schemes, and maybe that's why some of the candidates even got interviewed. Less about the candidate and more about let's hear about this scheme. And then if that scheme impresses, maybe they go find a candidate from that same scheme tree. So obviously Kubiak won both sides of that. Love the answer so far because I think it was a scheme first, like scheme fit first. What you want the Saints to look like offensively, the vision for the Saints offensively, and then who's actually calling the plays, which is as now Klint Kubiak.
I felt like Klint Kubiak was obviously the person of choice, and I've known Klint for a long time. I feel like I've known the family for probably over 20, 30 years. I remember watching Klint's dad, Gary, play quarterback back at Texas A&M.
Cool. That doesn't matter at all.
Growing up. So I feel like I've known this family. I feel like I've known this scheme for a long time, and I feel like this is the best scheme that gives your players the best chance to have success that's going in the National Football League right now.
Agreed. I agree with that. I think this version of the Kubiak / Shanahan tree, whatever you want to call it, I think it is the best scheme or system in the NFL going right now. I agree with Allen right there. And if he is familiar with the Kubiak family and he is familiar to an extent with the scheme, that maybe that did that makes sense to where that would go in Kubiak's favor, where Dennis is like, okay, I kind of have a grasp on what's going on here. Because I would think as the head coach, even though Dennis is the defensive guy, he's going to be fully involved in the defense now. Kubiak's going to have full control of the offense, all that stuff. Dennis is still the head coach. So he is still going to want to know what's going on that side of the ball. Not to the extent of he's going to be calling plays or anything, but he at least wants a grasp of what's actually happening. If he's familiar with the Kubiak system, makes perfect sense of why, one, I say the Kubiak system, I mean the Klint Kubiak system, a.k.a. the Shanahan system. If he's familiar with it, good. And I agree with him. It is probably the best system going right now.
I think Klint is highly intelligent. He's extremely hard worker. I think we've put together an outstanding staff with a little bit of a mixture of some older veteran coaches that have been there, done that, with some younger, progressive mindset.
There we go. Dennis has been listening to the channel. Dennis, I need to go check my subscribers and see if D Allen 123 subscribed to the channel. I've been saying it, ladies and gentlemen. I've been saying that. And I think this is a great example, right, of what I was saying at the beginning of the video. When Dennis said Klint Kubiak is intelligent, he's hard worker, whatever, that's the PC information of like, that's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. That's just filler. That's just what you want to hear, right? But then he shifts into the staff and how they form the offensive staff. And he talks about how it's a diverse group of ages. Now, this is where I think he's being dead honest. I think he probably, this is Dennis Allen we're talking about here. We know who he is. I think Dennis Allen probably wanted the tried and true old, did it. They have an extensive resume type coaches. And somebody, probably Mickey Loomis, has been watching my channel and said, we got to get progressive. We got to evolve. We got to get young. We got to get innovative. How many videos have I said that, ladies and gentlemen? It's been nothing for the last 2 months of me saying we need progressive, we need evolve, we need innovate, we need young. So Dennis, he's being honest here that, look, we had a purpose. We had an idea to go and get that. We wanted that. And that, to me, we keep talking about the difference in the philosophy and the person. The philosophy of the New Orleans Saints moving forward is what everyone should be excited about, because he's telling you, Dennis Allen's telling you that him, Mickey Loomis, whoever else is making these decisions, realizes they have to evolve and they have to innovate and they have to get progressive. That is an idea that is matriculating, word of the day, matriculating throughout the office. That idea, that philosophy, that wasn't there 12 months ago. How do I know that? Because we rolled out 20-year NFL vet, offensive coordinator extraordinaire Pete Carmichael. That's why. We had an assistant coaching staff of nothing but yes men and guys who have been there for years without doing anything. So this is a total 180 shift in the mindset. And what could have possibly changed it? Results. This front office understands this ain't good enough. They understand this is not the New Orleans Saints brand of football. They understand that. And this is the first domino to changing it. Will it actually work? Will Klint Kubiak be a great offensive coordinator? Will all these assistant coaches be great? I don't know, and I don't care. Because if they're not great, we can rely on this mindset. We can rely on this philosophy from the front office, even if it means Dennis Allen's gone. The philosophy from the front office that this isn't good enough, we need to evolve, we need to progress, we need to have the best system going in this building. That philosophy is what you want as we're going into the draft, getting players, getting free agents, moving the roster around, managing the salary cap. If that's the philosophy that's pushing all these decisions, I'm fine with it.
Of guys, and I think it's going to be a great mixture for our organization.
Yeah, before we move forward to what we want to talk about philosophically and scheme-wise, and you touched on it there a little bit. I know I've been told back in the day, the way Gary, when he ran it at its highest level, it's almost unguardable at sometimes if it's done the right way, the way this offense can be run. But specifically, Klint, coming from San Francisco, and the way you've seen coaches depart out of San Francisco and have success. What is it that you learned maybe in that interview process with Klint about what that building is doing right to have guys prepared to make a jump like you're having Klint do?
Yeah, well, I just think it's really about, having a system that you believe in, and then being able to clearly identify the players that fit that system, and then being able to acquire the talent that fits that. And I think they've done as good a job as any in San Francisco of being able to do that. I think they have a belief system of things that they really firmly believe in, and they don't vary from that. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, this is that PC. Like, there's just nothing. I mean, you never want to say they have a belief system that they believe in. It's a bit inferred, right? But we can take a little nugget here. That nugget being, Dennis realizes, and I think he is speaking for the front office here, they realize that if we're bringing in this new system and this new scheme, we're going to also have to bring in players who fit that system and fit that scheme. So Klint Kubiak is going to come in, and the first thing I would think he's going to do, I would assume the first thing he's going to do is try and figure out, okay, where do I have the players that fit this scheme? Where do I have those players on this roster? And where am I missing that? You know, where am I missing the wide receiver that can block downfield? Where am I missing the pass catching tight end? Where am I missing the fullback? Where am I missing this? And we're going to see the Saints start to go get those players.
The scheme has evolved as it's gone along. This goes back to, Mike Shanahan coaching back at Denver through, Kube going to Houston, and then carrying that scheme along, when he went back to Baltimore, and then he went to Minnesota. And you just see this scheme having a lot of success. There's probably,
or I guess the system is in Cleveland now. I mean,
a little bit more window dressing within the scheme now than maybe what there was, 10 or 15 years ago. But I just think it's a system that's quarterback friendly. And I think it relies on being able to run the football and get your play action passing game going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love hearing you talk about this because you're a defensive guy, right? You've had to scheme against this, so you know how much of a challenge it is schematically. But you just said it. This is a quarterback-friendly system. How do you think this is going to benefit Derek Carr?
I think it's going to benefit Derek Carr greatly because Derek Carr has shown in his career he wants to be in a system. He's just like Kirk Cousins. They want to be algorithmically efficient. Like they want to know I'm supposed to do this, and this because of this, and this, and this fits the system. This is the efficient throw, and I just have to make it happen. They don't want to Patrick Mahomes, and this is not a negative. So quarterbacks are different. Some quarterbacks want to improv. Some quarterbacks are great with that, and other quarterbacks are great inside of that system. And some quarterbacks, that's their biggest skill, is the ability that they have mastered the system. Derek Carr being in a system he trusts, Derek Carr getting a fresh start, being able to forget all the other stuff, that's going to benefit him. That's going to benefit the player that he is and the style of quarterback that he is. So jamming him into the system, very much like Brock Purdy, if we're talking about San Francisco. I think Brock Purdy, if you go out there and just roll the ball out there and make him do what Patrick Mahomes does, that's not going to be good. Purdy's great because he has mastered this system. Physically, nothing crazy, but he's getting the results, right? I think Carr can do the same thing. I think Carr can master this system, and the sky's the limit.
Well, look, I think Derek's going to do exceptionally well. I thought there was a point in time this past season where, we started incorporating a little bit more of the play action passing game, and I really felt like that's where our offense started to take off. I thought that's where Derek really kind of started to take off. And, it's interesting because, I've had communication with Derek throughout this process, and talked to him about some of the different candidates that, we were bringing in. And his brother David had played for Gary in Houston, and that was David's last year in Houston. I was a little bit concerned that maybe that wouldn't go over that great, and David had some really good things to say, about the offensive scheme and about how he.
I mean, that has absolutely nothing to do with this. I mean, that's so long ago. The idea that the system that Gary Kubiak was running at the very end of David Carr's career would somehow be the same system that's now been, evolved and changed, and what Klint Kubiak is going to evolve it and change it into the version that he has it. So that is a good example of, I think, Dennis really holding on to the past and really holding on to history and all of that. The fact that he's talking more about Gary Kubiak than the Kyle Shanahans and the Mike McDaniel and the Sean McVays and all that kind of shows you that.
Really appreciated the scheme and the things that they were doing, and really enjoyed playing for Gary and felt like, look, if there's some similarities, which I think there's a ton between Gary and Klint, that it was going to be a great fit. And so I'm really kind of excited about that.
It's interesting you bring up Houston. I was a beat guy there when Gary was the head coach, and I remember those drafts, DA, of him kind of finding the guys that fit this scheme we're talking about throughout the draft. So I'm kind of curious, now that you make this switch on offense, what have the meetings been like? And does your draft philosophy maybe change a little bit in the style of player maybe you're looking at on the offensive line or some other spots with the way that Klint wants to run this?
This is going to be very interesting because the draft process does change because Kubiak's going to say, well, we need a left guard who can do blank. And then that's going to trim down the list of left guards, right? Because they want the guy who can do whatever it is that Klint Kubiak's going to ask him. That goes for receivers, that goes for running backs, that goes for everything. So very interesting question here. I would assume it is I know it is going to affect it. How much Allen will let on here? I have a feeling he's going to be very to the chest on this one.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. A few years back, defensively here, I remember back in 2015, kind of 2016, we weren't sure exactly what we wanted to be defensively, 3-4, 4-3, Seattle 3 defense, New England single high man. We kind of went through a little process, and it was really kind of in 16 where I kind of took over, and I think we clearly identified exactly what we wanted to do defensively and exactly what we were looking for in each position. And so therefore we were able to go out and find those guys 2017 draft and on. And I think we became a lot better defense because of that, because we clearly identified what we were looking for. And I think that's the process that we're going through.
That's the best way to do it. That is the most efficient, best way to do it. The problem with that is you have to have a system, a solid system, a foundational system that everyone understands that is locked in. And to an extent, you can't have that unless it also has merit. You're not just going to have a system that doesn't work, right? So you have to have a system that's tried and true and everyone believes in, and you go, and it's like your bedrock. It is your foundation of the franchise. We haven't had that since Peyton left, so that has been an enormous void in this draft process, is drafting players that fit a system. We're just, our drafts, if you can see them, they're kind of sporadic. The players are kind of sporadic. They don't really fit a system. They don't fit a scheme. So if we can do what he's saying, if the system is there, because it all sounds good, but when it comes time to play, when it comes time for the games and for us to see this offense, we've got to see the system. We have to see the vision. It has to actually exist. Every team is going to tell you they have a system. The Saints last year would have said, we have a system. I'm here to tell you, no, they did not. Calling plays, having a play sheet, that's not the same as having a system, right? So we need to see it. I believe them, but we need to see this system. For me to really, truly say, okay, the Saints do have a discernible system. They have a discernible scheme. I hope that's the case, and I have to trust Kubiak and trust that we do in this draft process, because it is going to be very telling of who we actually take.
Right now, we're in the process of having our February draft meetings with the scouts, with Jeff Ireland, Mickey Loomis, myself. We're in there talking through these guys, and we had a chance to get the offensive coaching staff in here over the weekend. And really sit down with the scouts and with the people in the draft room.
Why wasn't I invited to this meeting? Dennis, what are we doing here, brother? Give me a call.
And kind of go through, look, this is what we're looking for at the quarterback position. This is what we're looking for in an offensive.
Why are y'all talking about the quarterback position? Dennis? I just got goosebumps. Dennis, don't you do this now. I swear, Dennis. And maybe he means later in the draft. Listen to me. Everyone relax, okay? I don't think he means at 14. Because at 14, that's going to mean two players, really. Is Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy are the only two quarterbacks that are going to be at 14 that are not in insane reach, like Michael Penix or someone like that. And I have said before, and I'll say it again, if we take Michael Pratt in the 4th round, 3rd round, if we take Michael Penix in the 3rd round, 4th round, fine by me. I don't care. I'm totally cool with that. But I do not want 14 to go to Bo Nix, and I don't want it to go to J.J. McCarthy. If somehow we end up landing one of the big boys, which I'm not even going to really put out there, fine. But I don't want to hear nothing about Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy at 14. That would be absolutely insane. Absolutely nuts. I think Dennis is talking about later in the draft, evaluating the quarterback position, what they're looking for there. I think that's totally fine. I do think it's weird he said that because they have Derek Carr, and we all know Derek Carr's a franchise quarterback. He's playing next season. It is wild that Dennis, the first thing he would say is, what do we want at the quarterback position?
The tackle. This is what we're looking for at the receiver position. So I think that's been great for our group. And I think we'll have to continue to have those discussions as we go throughout, this draft process, and really not just the draft process, but free agency also.
Yes.
I mean, I know that's invigorating. I mean, it's got to be like so cool now to have these types of discussions with a new staff and kind of hear new ideas and to really do this.
I'm invigorated.
So let's kind of flip it to the other side of the ball, DA. That's where you've just had one of the best defenses in the NFL for just the longest time. And I want to look at Cam Jordan because last year seemed like just such an aberration. You only had the 2 sacks. He wasn't putting up, the typical Hall of Fame type of numbers we've seen him put up. Do you consider that just kind of a blip on the radar? And what does he maybe need to do to get back to the Cam that we have seen for more than a decade?
Find a time machine.
Yeah, well, look, I think the thing that I would say about Cam, probably where the dip occurred a little bit is just his ability to finish on the quarterback. I think he was still effective in kind of being able to get around the quarterback. He just didn't finish as well on the quarterback. And so I think that's one of the things that we've got to continue to look at and work at. I think he's still one of the better run players in our league at the defensive end position. But look, let's be honest. I mean, as we all get older, we start to slow down a little bit. I don't think he's at that point where I think he's still got some good football left.
This is a very real answer. I mean, I'm kind of surprised because if you're Cam Jordan, you're probably not the happiest person in the world hearing this. He's basically saying he has lost a step with age, not like a step as far as speed, but he's lost something, and that something sounds like it's being able to finish the sacks. Sounds like he's saying that, yeah, he's still the same Cam as far as like getting there, but finishing, might not be the same. And then you go straight into, we have to be real here, he's an aging player. So pretty tough love kind of summary there of Cam Jordan's season from Dennis Allen.
I think it's up to us to try.
Because it's definitely not him saying it's an aberration. I mean, he could have taken the easy way out and said, nah, Cam will be, we trust he'll be a 10-sack guy every year, blah, blah, blah. It's an aberration. But he's saying more of like, I don't know if it was an aberration as much as these reasons.
Try to find the positions and the places to put him in to allow him to still be successful, and so look, the other thing is he injured his ankle at some point in the season. I think it might have been the Minnesota week, and look, he's such a tough competitor that he just battled through and fought through it. But I think it was probably 6 weeks before he started feeling more like himself.
Yeah, you mentioned Cam's age, and I'm not pushing him out the door by any stretch. He's one of my favorite players to watch. But as a head coach now that you're in this position and you're going through this, when a roster starts to get a little bit older, how do you figure out gauging, a guy still, as you mentioned, Cam still has this much left in your mind, gauging between we have to try to maybe flip this and get younger in some aspects, but we still want to value what this guy brings because you have a lot of those
Good question, because the Saints do have the oldest roster in the NFL.
Type of players that still bring a lot to the table. How do you gauge that?
Yeah, look, I think it's a delicate balance, because not only do these players, I'm talking about guys like Cam Jordan, I'm talking about guys like Tyrann Mathieu, I'm talking about guys like Demario Davis. We're speaking specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Look, they can still play.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that you just had to put more of an emphasis on the results, right? There's no more time for development. There's no more time for, maybe next year or whatever. So if like Demario Davis had a hell of a year, No questions about his age. Cam Jordan did not have a good year. You got to take a look at the age. Like it becomes much more imperative, and there's much less wiggle room.
And they can still play at a winnable level. And it's all those other intangibles that they can bring to your football team that don't necessarily
leadership.
Always show up on the stat sheet, but they show up in terms of the culture and the way you go about doing things. And so, look, it's a delicate balance, and it's hard because these guys have been such great players for such a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is not like the winning answer is not just have a locker room full of 22-year-olds. Like the locker room and the I would say like front office, but it's more of just the building culture and the building leadership and the identity and all of that. Having these veterans, that is important. You don't want just nothing but 21, 22-year-olds in your locker room. You want some kind of a culture and some kind of leadership from your players, and players like Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, they need to be there. Now, you don't want them there if their play is that bad, but for someone like Demario Davis, who's one of the best linebackers in the NFL, who's also a leader, also a veteran player, perfect combination.
That's the challenging part of this business. But as long as they can play at a level that allows us to be able to win, then I think they're valuable pieces to our team.
I agree.
DA, hey, one last question before we let you go here, and this is important. I'm in New Orleans for the HBCU Legacy Bowl. The HBCU Combine was run at your facility, and the Saints have such a rich history with players, coaches, and supporting Black college athletics. Even last year, you guys adding Mark Evans, the offensive lineman at Arkansas Pine Bluff. Just what about your organizational commitment to continue to find talent on and off the field to make you guys better year in and year out?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think it's really just a commitment to trying to find the best people and the best players that we can find, regardless of where they come from. And I think this, this Legacy Bowl, and we had the Combine over here at the facility yesterday, where I think there was probably about 50 kids that got an opportunity to get in front of the NFL scouts.
Again, Dennis, why didn't you call me? I'm lethal from within about 30 yards. You could have called me, could have showed you the arm, could have showed you some of the accuracy.
And go through some, positional drills or skill drills to get their name and get their face in front of some NFL evaluators and give them an opportunity to maybe have a chance to, either be drafted or signed as a free agent. Football players come in all shapes, sizes, and areas and backgrounds and all those kinds of things. And we're willing to look anywhere we can to find somebody that fits our culture, that fits our program, that can help us, be a successful organization, win some football games.
Hey, DA, man, we appreciate the support. We appreciate you taking the time.
There you go. Good interview. I like it. I like it. I think, Dennis, it's a different vibe. It's a different vibe. It's a fresh start. It's a new scheme. It's a new identity. It's a new philosophy. We're out with the old, in with the new. I like it. So, again, the draft, I think the draft quote is going to get a lot of play just because he said the word quarterback. He also said wide receiver. He also said lineman. He also said what tackle. I think the Saints, they're not going quarterback at 14. I would be absolutely stunned unless someone slides. But Bo Nix and McCarthy are not the answer at 14. So I think he was just rolling quarterbacks or rolling positions off, and quarterback was one of them. So I don't really put a lot of stock into that. But I like the interview. I like the energy. I like the mindset, and I like what the front office is doing. I'm excited to see what players we get, who the draft process brings us, who the free agency brings us, all that stuff. So it's getting fun. It's getting fun, ladies and gentlemen. Go down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about the interview. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.